Hello, I'm Sophiralou and welcome to my channel.
Hello guys, and welcome to my contribution for the YouTube Artist Collective theme Grimm's Fairy Tales. Now if you don't know what the YouTube Artist Collective is, we are a group of illustrators who all have YouTube channels, and every few months we get a theme selected by you guys and we get to illustrate that theme. If you want to see everyone's work, there will be a full list down below to check out, as well as a playlist of everyone's work. We do have a few special guest artists this time, so I highly recommend checking them out. Everyone's channels will be linked down below, so make sure to check out everyone's amazing work, as well as the originals will be for sale, as well as prints up on my Redbubble store. If you are interested in owning this piece of art for yourself, please feel free to check those out. It's quite interesting, this theme, and I will be reading the story for you. If you want to know what equipment I've used, a full list of equipment will be down below, as well as any other information. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, but let's start with the story. The Frog Prince. In the old times, when it was still of some use to wish for the thing one wanted, there lived a king whose daughters were all handsome, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun himself, who has seen so much, wondered each time he shone over her because of her beauty. Near the royal castle there was a great dark wood, and in the wood under an old linden tree there was a well. And when the day was hot, the king's daughter used to go forth into the wood and sit by the brink of the cool well, and if the time seemed long she would take out her golden ball and throw it up and catch it again, and this was her favourite pastime. Now it happened one day that the golden ball, instead of falling back into the maiden's little hand which had sent it aloft, dropped to the ground near the edge of the well and rolled in. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes as it sank, but the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen, and she began to weep, and she wept and wept as if she could never be comforted. In the midst of her weeping she heard a voice saying to her, "What ails thee, king's daughter? Thy tears would melt a heart of stone." And when she looked to see where the voice had come from, there was nothing but a frog stretching his thick, ugly head out of the water. "Oh, is it you, old waddler?" said she. "I weep because my golden ball has fallen into the well." "Never mind, do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help you, but what will you give me if I fetch up your ball again?" "Whatever you like, dear frog," said she. "Any of my clothes, my pearls, my jewels, or even the golden crown that I wear." "Thy clothes, thy pearls, and jewels, and thy golden crown are not for me," answered the frog. "But if thou wouldst love me, and have me for thy companion and playfellow, and let me sit by thy table, and eat from thy plate, and drink from thy cup, and sleep in thy bed, if thou would promise me all this, then I would dive below the water, and fetch thee thy ball again." "Oh yes," she answered, "I will promise it all. Whatever you want, but only if you'll get me my ball again." But she thought to herself, "What nonsense he talks, as if he could do anything but sit in the water and croak with all the other frogs, or could possibly be anyone's companion." But the frog, as soon as he heard her promise, drew his head under the water and sank down out of sight. But after a while he came to the surface again with the ball in his mouth, and he threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was overjoyed to see her pretty plaything again, and she caught it up and ran off. "Stop! Stop!" cried the frog. "Take me up too. I cannot run as fast as you." But it was no use, for croak after her as he might, she would not listen to him, but made haste home, and very soon forgot about the poor frog, who had to betake himself to the well again. The next day, when the king's daughter was sat at the table with the king and the court eating from her golden plates, there came something pitter-patter up the marble steps, and then there came a knocking at the door, and a voice crying, "Youngest king's daughter, let me in!" And she got up and ran to see who it could be, but when she opened the door, there was the frog sitting outside, and she shut the door hastily and went back to her seat, feeling very uneasy. The king noticed how quickly her heart was beating, and said, "My child, what are you so afraid of? Is there a giant at the door ready to carry you away?" "Oh no," answered she, "no giant, but a horrid frog." "And what does the frog want?" asked the king. "Oh dear father," answered she, When I was sitting by the well yesterday and playing with my golden ball, it fell into the water, and while I was crying for the loss of it, the frog came in and got it for me on the condition I would let him be my companion. But I never thought that he could leave the water and come after me, but now he has sat outside the door and wants to come in." And then they all heard him knocking the second time and crying, "Youngest king's daughter, open to me, by the well water, what promised you me? Youngest king's daughter, now open to me." "That which thou hast promised must thou perform," said the king. "So go now and let him in." And so she went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in, following at her heels until she reached her chair, then stopped and cried, "Lift me up to sit by you." But she delayed doing so until the king ordered her. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to get on the table, and there he sat and said, "Now push your golden plate a little nearer so that we may eat together." And so she did, but everybody might see how unwilling she was, and the frog feasted heartily, but every morsel seemed to stick in her throat. "I've had enough now," said the frog at last, "and as I am tired, you must carry me to your room and make ready your silken bed, and we will lie down and go to sleep." Then the king's daughter began to weep, and was afraid of the cold frog, that nothing would satisfy him, but he must sleep in her pretty clean bed. Now the king grew angry with her, and saying, "That which thou hast promised in thy time of necessity must thou perform." So she picked up the frog with her finger and thumb, and carried him upstairs and put him in the corner, and where she had lain down to sleep, he came creeping up, and saying, "I'm tired, and want to sleep as much as you. Take me up, or I will tell your father." Then she felt beside herself with rage, picking him up, and she threw him with all her might against the wall, crying, "Now will you be quiet, you horrid frog!" But as he fell, he ceased to be a frog, and became all at once a prince with beautiful, kind eyes. And then it came to pass that, with her father's consent, they became bride and bridegroom, and he told her how a wicked witch had bound him by one of her spells, and how no one but she alone could have released him, and how the two would go together to his father's kingdom. And then there came to the door a carriage drawn by 8 white horses, with white plumes on their heads with golden harnesses, and behind the carriage was standing faithful Henry, the servant of the young prince. Now faithful Henry had suffered such care and pain when his master was turned into a frog, that he had been obliged to wear 3 iron bands over his heart to keep it from breaking with trouble and anxiety. When the carriage started to take the prince up to his kingdom, and faithful Henry had helped them both in, he got up behind and was full of joy at his master's deliverance. And when he had gone part of the way, the prince heard a sound at the back of the carriage, as if something had broken, and he turned round and cried, "Henry, the wheel must be breaking!" But Henry answered, "The wheel does not break, 'tis the band around my heart, that to lessen its ache, when I grieved for your sake, I bound it around my heart." Again and once again there was the same sound, and the prince thought it might be the wheel breaking, but it was the breaking of the other bands from faithful Henry's heart, because now it was so relieved and happy. The end. I feel like The Frog Prince is such an iconic tale that I had to do it. There was so much choice that you could have chosen from the big list of these books, and so many of them are so iconic that I wanted to choose something that I wouldn't normally have done. And there are so many stories, and they almost shape our childhood with these fairy tales. I'm very happy with the way my piece turned out, even though I was so torn up about which one to do, but it's kind of fun seeing everyone's different interpretations of the same theme. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Make sure to check out everyone else's amazing content. All the artists are down below, as well as our guest artists. Remember, the original is for sale, as well as prints up on my Redbubble store. I hope you guys enjoyed this and the story as well. Something a little bit different for this channel. I hope you like, comment and subscribe. Make sure to check out everyone else's videos. But as always folks, stay creative.